Hello and welcome to 360 Sports on Trust TV. There's always a lot happening in the world of sports, and we are right here to make sure that you are in the thick of the action. I am Ibrahim Yusuf, and of course, we've got a bumper package for you today. And alongside me today,
Mardia Umar, thank you so much for joining us on Sport 360.
All right, Mardia and I are going to take you through a journey to the world of sports. Of course, events have taken place, some are about to, and some are currently taking place at the moment. So one of the things that we've actually put shine on these days is the handball league that is currently going on right now, and of course games actually played, teams won, some lost, and we've seen lots and lots of interest being generated in the handball game right now because of the current league season that is going on. So some games were actually played. I think it's day 5 now.
Yes, and day 5 of the Prudent Energy Premier League, of course. Yes.
Exactly. So it's day 5. A lot of games were played, and some very, very interesting results actually came to the fore. Safety Shooters actually had a very good one. They won by 25-24 against Rima Strikers. Confluence Stars beat Toja Marine Academy by 28-27. Seasiders lost to Benue Buffaloes by 20-23, and Kano Pillars actually obliterated Police Machine by 41-16. That is quite an interesting result. I think that's the widest margin we've seen so far.
Yes, that's a very annihilating one. You know, when the Police Machine does not perform its magic on the pitch, and then Pillars had to bring their pillars up so high and edge out a Police Machine. But it's been an interesting game so far. The women also are in action. We've seen a lot of strength, a lot of strides, action, the thrillers, and the Prudent Energy handball game going on in Lagos. The ladies were in action as well. We saw the Seasiders. We saw the Safety Babes as well. We saw the Benue Buffaloes, of course, for the men, and then Rima Strikers, Rima Babes as they're called, were also in action as well. And then we saw how the Rima Stars were able to do what the men could not do. They couldn't do what the men did, actually. We saw Seasiders Babes and Bendel Dynamos in action. It was 23 points for Bendel Dynamos and 26 points for Seasiders. Imo Grasshoppers scored 20 points, and Plateau Peacocks scored 18 points. Rima Queens were in action with Safety Babes, and Safety Babes, of course, topping one of the teams topping the league right now. Safety Babes, they edged out Rima Queens 27-25.
All right, quite interesting results there. Some of the results I've seen were most of the results actually are quite tight, showing you the level of competition is actually there when it comes to the handball league this season.
Yes, and the competition is quite tight. You see the Niger Tornadoes, the Niger United, you know, I wanted to say Niger Tornadoes because of the football names, exactly, and all that. The Niger United actually are doing very well. There are some points down from Kano Pillars. Kano Pillars are topping the league right now in Lagos. And Toja Marine Academy and Safety Shooters, of course, they are Lagos-based teams. So we have both teams playing at home. And all the time we see Safety Shooters coming up first. And Benue Buffaloes actually have lost 2 matches in the competition so far in Lagos. And now they are now doing what they can. The last match, day 5, they did absolutely well, as they were able to pick few points clear of their opponent. That's the Confluence Stars.
All right, so well, for handball, they're doing very well, and of course, I think the resurgence of the league is something that we should all be happy about, because it gives us the opportunity to actually discover talents, and we have a pool of players now for the national team, and maybe make a launch in continental and even world championships.
Exactly, and one thing that we should put in mind is the fact that Prudent Energy Handball League, the Premier League, has been consistent. The one that happened in 2019, 2020, we saw that in the Moshood Abiola Stadium, where we saw different people, different teams from all across Nigeria have representative in the team, and now the second phase now in Lagos. So I think when we actually have this game transcends from one state to the other, when we have consistency in handball, because it's 50 years, and if you've been playing a particular game for 50 years, it should gain recognition. I think handball should be a game that when you walk into schools, you should see a handball.
Because it's not that difficult, I mean, like to set up a handball pitch, is it?
It's just like you setting up a football pitch.
Exactly, and it's even smaller.
It's even smaller.
Exactly.
It's just the size that matters. And then we just have to do something to make this handball and other games aside football and basketball very prominent in Nigeria. When you walk into schools, what the main things you see when you talk about sports or what they take seriously is football and basketball.
Yeah, football pitch and a basketball court.
And the basketball. And then we've been seeing an emergence of volleyball courts lately. And
yeah, which is actually very good for the sport as well. Well, the bottom line is we already understand that we need to go to the grassroots. That's where we need to develop these sports, need to develop interest in the young ones and have them come up, and then we can be able to make something worthwhile, because like you said, 50 years of handball, and we practically don't have much to show for it when it comes to handball, really.
Yes, we need to do more.
Well, more needs to be done in handball and other sports as well. Well, talking about other sports, you cannot talk about Nigerian sports without talking about football.
Of course. You can rule that out completely.
Exactly. You can't talk about that without talking about football. And we've always talked about the Nigeria Professional Football League, that we need to get it where it needs to get. We need to improve the league. We need to make it better. New NFF leadership has come in, promised to do something about it. And, well, we're hoping we're going to see that difference. But the interim management committee have told us that now preparations are underway for the new MPFL season, and its preparations are in top gear, I hear.
I think this is becoming, it's becoming like a regular warning when the MPFL is in top gear. You know, preparations are in top gear. But we need to see more. How many stations will be commissioned to show this live? You know, how much media coverage do they get? And that's the problem, because you're talking about Nigeria Professional Football League. How many people can name 5 players in Kano Pillars? If you're not from Kano and you're not a fan of football, just like we can just walk up to anybody and say, do you know Cristiano Ronaldo? And everybody, like, of course, I know Cristiano.
Exactly.
That's because they've been given so much coverage. They've been talked about in different papers, on television stations, on radio stations. So if we get that kind of coverage, I think our MPFL will also go very far. And when the stars, you know, and the fans know that anything that happens on the pitch is going to be showed everywhere, all over the world. I think we could curb that violence and every other chaos that arises as a result.
I think teams' administrations will be on their toes to make sure that things are done the way they're supposed to.
So I think the media has the power to make that sudden change we need in the MPFL. And I hope that the interim management committee of the NFF will do everything possible to make 2021-2022 season of the Nigerian Professional Football League a different league from what we used to have. At
one point, actually, NPFL matches were broadcast on satellite television, but unfortunately now that is not the case. I mean, we take one step forward and then like 5 steps backwards again, because just like you talked about it, most of these leagues, where the money comes from, even you're talking about the Premier League, you're talking about leagues in Europe, and the money comes from television. That is where the money comes, and TV rights get sold every season and they make tons of money, and that is what these teams actually share at the end of the season, which makes those leagues what they are right now. But what the main argument now a lot of people actually have is with the media and the rest of it. They argue that the Nigeria Professional Football League is not packaged in such a way that it's going to be appealing for television.
So when you say package, do you mean the pitch?
The pitches are not what they're supposed to be. The stadium atmosphere is not what everything about it. The stadium atmosphere is not what it is. The pitches are not really good. You have situations whereby your security is not guaranteed for media practitioners when they actually go to these to fields to cover matches and all of that. So these are the arguments that are actually raised, most especially from the media aspect of the situation. Why do I have to go? Why should I go and pay for something that people do not have interest in watching because it's not aesthetically appealing? failing. That's one. Number two, I'm taking a lot of risk by going there to actually cover and bring this to the fore, because there's no guarantee of security.
I think that's some of the things that they should put into consideration as
Exactly.
they're preparing for the NPFL next season. It's starting in no time. Of course, in November we'll start preparation. The pre-seasons have been played, and then we see the top teams that will be slugging it out to clinch the title at the end of the tournament.
We do know that that is something that we need to focus on. We need to focus on our league. Our league needs to be better, because we have other African countries that really cannot hold a torch to Nigeria when it comes to football. But their leagues are absolutely fantastic.
Exactly.
And they're doing that
I think we should borrow a
leave
lead from some of these African countries, Tanzania, South Africa.
Exactly.
We have Morocco, we have
Of course,
Egypt.
not talk about the North Americans. The North Americans actually
so
have...
it's a lot.
Yeah. So a lot really needs to be done when it comes to our league. We need to do a lot, and we need to package it in such a way that it can be appealing, and we need to have a product that we can actually sell. I think that is the first thing we need to look at.
I think that's what we have problems when we go for the CAF Champions League.
Exactly.
Yes, when we face team like Al Ahly, and then everybody's just very scared.
Exactly.
I know Enyimba Football Club of Aba have done their bit. We have the likes of Plateau United playing their traits there, but it's not just the same.
No,
after the first leg, the return leg is always something that we have
we
nothing to write
we always
home
talk about the North Americans, and we talk about how good they actually are when it comes to football. And the thing is, when you look at these North American teams and you look at their national teams, you'll find that like 95 to 98% of those players are home-based players. And they actually go there and they dominate when it comes to continental football, even at the national team stage. So I think there's something that we really need to look at and make sure that our league is up to scratch.
Exactly. So we'll be moving on to other sports aside the NPFL. Okay, the matters arising from the NPFL and its preparations, and also other sports as well that we need to look at this morning. Of course, golf. Golf is one important sports in Nigeria that we also need to look at, and of course there's a tournament in Lagos recently. We'll be having all of the women. This has to be with women right now. I remember the golf tournament, the Daily Trust golf tournament in Uyo, and how wonderful it was.
Yes, it was actually great to see how golf has evolved in Nigeria, and how it has gotten the kind of recognition that it's getting now. It was a sport that is usually associated with a certain group of people, but
the
now
elites.
exactly. But now it's actually something that has evolved, and is creating a lot of awareness has been created, and lots of people are generating interest, picking interest in when it comes to the sport of golf. And I think that is something, because it comes with the investment that is being made in golf. I mean, like, you have tournaments that are being sponsored by corporate bodies, and they come in there and they make it absolutely fantastic, and you have exceptional golf tournaments. So I think that goes a long way in making the sport almost commonplace now when it comes to Nigerian sports. So
250 women will be in Lagos for this eccentric golf tournament, and of course mouth-watering prizes at the end of the day. The matches are starting. The one started around 7 a.m. Still ongoing, then another one 10, of course, just a few minutes from now. And results will start rolling in as soon as possible. Keep tabs, and of course keep you updated on what goes on in that eccentric golf tournament in Lagos, this time for women.
All right, so from there, well, let's pivot back to football once again, because just like I said, you can't talk about Nigerian sports without talking about football. And of course, Paris 2024, that's the Olympic Games, that's actually coming up. We have Nigeria and Tanzania under 23 national teams actually trying to book their places when it comes to that. And the Tanzania under 30 national team is already in Ibadan right now to prepare as they take on the under 23 Eagles. How do you fancy our chances?
It was a 1-1 draw in the first leg of the competition, and having Tanzania come into the country and all of the preparations that we need to do before the game, it's kind of very scary, because if we miss our chances this time around, it's going to be a goodbye for us. Paris 2024 will just be a dream that might never ever come into reality. So all preparations are being made. I like the fact that your state government under the leadership of Sheyi Makinde is actually putting preparations. I think the Salami Stadium will be the stadium that we used on Saturday. And we saw that the NFF is also making preparations for this. I see some of them expressing some kind of fear
Yes,
and less
actually,
confidence about
the
this.
information coming through is that there's some level of panic.
But they're optimistic.
There's some panic in the corridors of the NFF. I think it's not unrelated to what happened to the Super Eagles. You know, we went to Ghana. We got a very good result in Ghana, and we were hoping they were going to come home and finish the game.
It wasn't a good result.
And finish the job.
It was a draw.
It was a good result.
It was a good result.
We didn't lose.
Yes,
and drawing in Ghana and coming back home, I mean, like, we're playing at home, and we had all the chances to actually do that. So it was a positive result, really. When you look at it, you go away, you play a draw. I think in my books that is a good result.
And when you talk about your books, not forgetting that some Nigerians are actually not very happy. There's some set of team players and the Super Eagles denied them the opportunity to be at the Qatar 2021.
Yes, that's the thing. That's what we're talking about. They went to Ghana. We got a very good result. We came back and were supposed to do something worthwhile. Unfortunately, we couldn't get it. And that's what happened. So I think that is what is relating right now. That's why there's a little bit of panic when it comes to the under-23 right now and the game against Tanzania. It is a positive result when you go away and you play a 1-1 draw and you're playing the second leg at home. I think it is a positive result. And of course, we should be seen as having the upper hand when it comes to this time.
And then we get a draw at home when thousands, if I say millions, I'm exaggerating because I was there live, and we saw how the stadium was filled with a lot of Nigerians coming out to support the Super Eagles. But as you will have it, in football, anything can happen. We didn't qualify, and Qatar 2020 is just on the way. So let's see what happened. We'll be cheering up other teams, other African teams that will be plying the trade in Qatar 2020. Teams like Tunisia, of course, Ghana, that defeated Nigeria to qualify for Qatar 2022. So we're being joined by a live guest right now from Lagos, Marcus Moses. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me again.
Hello, can you hear us, Marcus?
I can. Good morning. Can you
Okay,
hear?
we'll get that later. We seem to be having a little bit technical hitch, but we'll join Marcus later as soon as we can. So talking about preparations, of course, one of the things that the NFF in Oyo State pointed out was that they need media coverage for this match to go haywire, to go popular, and amass a lot of support for the under-23 team of Nigeria. So that brings us to the media coverage. And don't tell me that it's not attractive enough for us to have media coverage.
Well, it all depends on how the NFF decide to spin it. You understand? If you try to, because the media want to show what people are interested in. The question you should ask is, how many people actually know that the under-23 are playing Tanzania in Ibadan?
That's what we're doing now.
Exactly. You understand? So that is the thing. Did the NFF approach you and tell you that this is what's going to happen? The interest needs to be generated. Once the interest is generated, once you have the news is out there, that is when you actually have people wanting to watch these things, having the interest to do that. And that is when you get the media to try and come forward to say, okay, fine, we're going to show this. We're going to show it either live or we're going to show it delayed, even have studio guests and discuss an analysis and all that, because the buzz is just not there. That is what I'm saying. So that is something that the NFF really need to work on. They need to create the buzz around the football so that the media can be interested from the interest of people, and then they can be able to show that, and we can be able to see these games.
And
sometimes we even rely on foreign media outlets to watch Nigerian games. That's how bad it actually is.
Okay, so we need a lot of transparency from the management. Of course, it's very important. And then we do not want to have this politics in football. When you go to cover some of these games, you talk about accreditations, and then you're restricting media houses who will cover. So how do we have all of this news out there? But away from the shores of the country, of course, there are important games that happened yesterday. The thrills, the actions, that's something you cannot take away from the Europa League and all of the leagues. We'll talk about on 360 Sports that's on Trust TV. So the Europa games were played yesterday. We saw the likes of Manchester United. We saw the likes of Ronaldo having a very tough week, and then it ended up positively for him after he scored a very defining goal for Manchester United yesterday. And then Arsenal, who's topping the EPL, had a dramatic loss to PSV yesterday. That was really dramatic for a lot of people, and people are wondering if it's a goal drought for Arsenal. So let's take a look at the table. PSV versus Arsenal, it ended 2-0, and the Zurich and Bodo Glimt, they actually played 2-1 in favor of Zurich. AK Lanaka and Dynamo Kiev was 3-3. It was a draw. Fenerbahce and Rennes, it was 3-3 at the end of the game. And then we have Real Betis. Of course, Basgrad, it was 0-1 in favor of Real Betis. And then we have Helsinki and Roma, it was 2-1. Roma won that match. And we also have FC Union Berlin and Sporting Braga. Union Berlin defeated Sporting Braga 1-0. And then Malmo FF and Union Saint Kilos, it was 0-2 in favor of Union Saint. So let's take a look at the other table. Okay.
So all the interesting matches were actually played, and just like you made mention earlier, Manchester United beat Sheriff Tiraspol by 3-0. Ronaldo coming up with the goods there. Omonia Nicosia going down to Real Sociedad is not quite a surprise by 2-0. Lazio beat Midtjylland by 2-1. Sturm Graz 1-0 against Feyenoord. Nantes beat Karabakh by 2-1, and Freiburg and Olympiacos played a 1-1 draw. Red Star Belgrade 2-1 against Trabzonspor, and Ferencváros played a 1-1 draw against Monaco, which is quite a surprising result, because a lot of people actually thought Monaco were going to run away with it at one point.
Exactly. We talked about it yesterday on 360 Sports, and I was rooting. I said Monaco was going to do wonders yesterday, but it happens.
Unfortunately, it is football. So one of the most interesting results that you touched on it earlier was PSV Arsenal. A lot of people are high-flying Arsenal this season. I mean, like taking on all comers, getting the results, beating people left, right, and centre, top of the Premier League. But a lot of people actually believe they were woeful yesterday.
Yes, even the manager, the head coach, he did talk about how there was this lackluster, this complacency, and some people will argue that some of the players were rested for the weekend when they will be facing Nottingham Forest on Sunday. And then we saw the fact that, could it be because they have qualified for the last 16, then we saw that complacency yesterday from the Arsenal stars? Or could it be a goal drought? Because in the last 4 games before the Europa match yesterday, it was a goal drought, and a lot of people were expressing a kind of, unsatisfaction, especially Arsenal fans or people who are against Arsenal, or who are not Arsenal fans, were saying that it's a goal drought, and could they maintain that position they are in the EPL? And then we have the Europe, of course, they've qualified, but we saw something like, like they were just holding back.
This argument I actually subscribe to, and I really don't agree with, when you say that, okay, the team has already qualified and then players were arrested, and these ones that are fringe players that were brought into the team. As a fringe player, you've gotten the opportunity to showcase what you've actually got, to make a case for yourself, so that you can make a play for the first team. You don't have an excuse to say that you're going to take it easy. Really, I mean, like, they don't have an excuse for taking it easy. I mean, the hunger should be there so that you can show the manager that he's making a mistake by keeping you on the bench. Isn't that how it's supposed to be?
I love the fact that, Mikel Arteta admitted that the boys were not up there with the performance yesterday. And it really shows that he knows his onions and he knows what to do getting into the game, the EPL game with Nottingham Forest. Let's keep our fingers crossed and see what happens.
Yeah, well, Nottingham Forest not having a very good season, so I think, and Arsenal having a good season when it comes to the Premier League. So I think that we'll take a closer look at that when we examine games in the Premier League. So what about Manchester United? Manchester United had a very good outing yesterday.
Yes, Manchester United.
Keeping a clean sheet, scoring 3 goals.
Yes, luckily for Ronaldo, who has had a very rough week, being sent to train with the under-21 and then facing some kind of penalty from the club, and then the cohesion between him and Ten Hag. It ended so well for him, like a comeback, and then you're being up there doing what you want to do. It was really good, and at the end of the match, Ten Hag admitted that he was everywhere. He wanted to score, and at the end of the day, he was able to score a very defining goal that skyrocketed Manchester United to claiming 3 points.
All right, so
three goals
and a clean sheet as well. So it's a very good performance for Manchester United and of course for Ronaldo as well. Quickly before we go, let's take a look at Jurgen Klopp now. He's an eccentric manager. Everybody knows Jurgen Klopp, very charismatic and all that. But he is in trouble with the FA as he has been fined £30,000 for berating an assistant referee because of some questionable calls, as he may call them.
I think one of the things that we're looking at right now, because when people are watching these matches and then some people are saying that, oh God, this is not fair. We have the VAR, acting against, people will think that the VAR acting against some clubs and then favoring some clubs. But it's important that you know the FIFA rules and you know how to apply all of the FIFA rules and know when the club is defaulting and when there are fouls. So we don't say things that we're not really sure of. He acted out of line. He admitted that he acted out of line. But I'm sure Liverpool is going to, they will appeal this and he might end up not paying the £30,000.
Well, Jurgen Klopp fined £30,000 for berating an assistant referee because of questionable calls, as he put them. And that is how we are going to draw it right here on 360 Sports. We talked about a lot of things from handball to football to Europa League, local league, everything in between. And that is how we do it, because we give you the complete and total view right here on Trust TV. Well, let's do this all again on this station. I am Ibrahim Yusuf.
And I am Martia Umar. Thank you for watching. Goodbye for now.